Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday.
Hey, Professor.
It's been a while since
Hello.
well.
Hello.
Hopefully your week has gone well. Um, Thanks for those who kind of gave me their opinion about this $15 federal minimum wage. Um, I just wanted to get a sense where everybody was at. It seems like, if you're not aware of it, um, they're trying to fight for a raise in the federal minimum wage, and I believe it's pretty low right now, in the single digits. And many of you do agree there should be a higher minimum wage. It sounds like it because of obviously the high cost of living, not just in the Bay Area, but throughout pretty much a lot of the urban cities in this country. Someone pointed out in certain cities it might be beneficial because the cost of living is so low. Um, and in our current government, or our politicians are fighting for this and then trying to include it with our COVID package, which would bring stimulus and other funds to support not just COVID relief, like the vaccination stuff, but also like what does life look like after, or how do we get everyone back? Because everyone is dealing with either unemployment or losing their places, or their apartments. So it's crazy times. And I feel you, $15 is not enough, especially here in San Francisco. It's crazy that how low income here is considered like $100,000. I don't even make that much, so I'm below low income. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, it's just crazy. That's the world we live in, and I hope we hold our politicians accountable and make them hear how hard it is to live by paycheck. But profit over people, yes. So obviously, politicians, are they accountable to the people? Are they accountable to their donors or large corporations that need to keep their expenses low and their profits high? So that's the world we live in for sure. Also want to check in with folks. I know what week are we in? 5. How are folks feeling? 1 through 10 on the Zoom chat. What is your energy level, or how you're feeling in general about life, about school? From 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being great. I love it. Everything's working out for me. Okay. Oh no, there's some low numbers in here. Okay, so seems like the semester's catching up for some folks. And I know it's been hard for remote. Not sure what the vaccinations and what that's going to look like for fall. I know they're trying to have classes open, but I don't think it's all classes. So they're going to figure out who prioritizes what. And we'll see how that is, because that's political too. And for those who are on the lower numbers, please reach out to me. So maybe we could kind of talk about this class. Hopefully it's not about this class, but if it is, then for sure talk to me. And then we're a third into the semester, so I would like to get these low numbers up to, or I'd like to get you more motivated, I guess you could say, and try to finish this spring semester off well. I feel like it's been going pretty quickly, because I feel like we just started sometimes. Okay, so yeah, for sure, folks. If you have challenges in your personal lives, reach out to me and we'll figure stuff out for this class. Cool. Wish I had a TA to kind of make sure I support you all in this. I'll do my best. What I can do. Sue, what are we doing today? Just checked in. Seems like folks are going through it for sure. I'm feeling it also, and I'll try not to keep you the whole 3 hours today. I hope that makes you happy. I'll try to go through the material and also try to be efficient as possible in terms of what we're discussing too. So we're talking about American exceptionalism and U.S. imperialism, and what does that mean? That's the theme of the week. We'll take a break and then go into this idea of white supremacy and privilege, breaking that down after our conversations about U.S. empire, and then after that, checking out and some. So last week we talked about what is a paradigm, what are a set of beliefs that people hold in society that pushes particular belief systems, ideologies, the ways people look at the world, and how does that like dictate the ways in which people move through this world, decide things in their own, and impact their day to day. So those are paradigms. And then we jumped into this big global context of imperialism and colonialism, and how maybe some of our homelands have been impacted by US empire, and the ways in which these systems of oppression on a global scale have kind of forced us or pushed us here to the United States. So we talked about the differences of colonialism and imperialism, in the sense that imperialism is like the big idea, and then colonialism is the practice of it. So just a quick review. So I know we don't see each other too often, and kind of framing our next conversation. Ooh, this was supposed to be before. Awkward. So I'm gonna start off the class or restart the class with a cultural energizer. Oh my God. Name a song in the Zoom chat that's kind of reflecting how your life is going right now. Maybe someone, or maybe I could create a playlist. But what song reflects how you're feeling, or a song that's in your playlist right now that's on repeat? I guess what's popular too in terms of music. I can't keep up sometimes, but any good suggestions would be greatly appreciated. So in the Zoom chat, what song or artists are on your playlists? No Patties. I feel old now. I don't even know who that is. I Am by Young Baby Tate. All right, who else? Good Days by SZA. What else? The Lazy Song. I know that song. Yeah, it's a Friday. I hear you. I agree with the Good Days. J. Cole, Lights Out. Okay. Who else? What other songs are out there? Hard on Yourself, Black Bear. I gotta look up a lot of these artists. Who else? What else are y'all listening to? Right. No Parties. Oh. Coil Ray. Okay. Lo-fi music reflects my life right now. Yes. Big Ballin' Checklist. Okay. I'm gonna keep this list and see what y'all are listening to. I don't think I'm much older than some of y'all, but or I am. Could be your father, probably. Dang, I need to brush up on my music for sure. What else is everyone listening to? I got like 10. A waterfall. That one I know. TLC. That's the 90s for me. I'm guessing most of you were born after the 90s. Anyone else? Okay. 01, baby. Okay. No idea who that is. Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing. Maybe I'll come up with a playlist when I have time, and I'll have it like in the beginning of class for next session. Cool. So back, redirection to what we're talking about today. So you all watched the film Savage Acts, Wars, Fairs, and Empire. This basically talks about US's perspective and why they went abroad or globally to expand their power, their economy throughout the world. And you will hopefully were able to see this video. It's about 30 minutes or so. And then we also had the readings and second thoughts. So for the next hour or so, we'll talk about this idea of American exceptionalism and US imperialism. So Savage Acts links the pageantry of fairs to the story of the Philippine-American War. It's the first attempt to claim an overseas colony and a turning point in US foreign policy. It doesn't necessarily just talk about the Philippines, but how Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii also is part of that conversation. And basically talks about how America promoted their interest overseas and their notions of Anglo-Saxon or white superiority. So here's the video. I'm not showing the whole. I kind of got a shorter clip of it, but here's a good refresher for folks.
The city on the hill, manifest destiny, the frontier. These phrases were used for 200 years to celebrate the westward expansion of the United States. Borders were crossed, peoples were removed, and the phrases resounded with messages of inevitability, righteousness, and heroism. By the end of the 19th century, the continent had been conquered. Americans began looking for new borders to cross. European powers had claimed colonies for centuries. Now the U.S. embarked on a new era of expansion beyond its shores. Imperialism was added to the list of phrases. This is a story about how the United States expanded at the turn of the century, how it conquered distant lands, and at the same time conquered doubts at home. It is a story about wars, world's fairs, and the creation of an empire. The story begins in Cuba. On February 24th, 1895, Cubans take up arms to win independence from 400 years of Spanish rule.
Separation from Spain is the only cure for Cuba's ills.
A year later, and thousands of miles away, Filipinos rise up against 300 years of Spanish colonialism.
We sons of the people seek to redeem the mother country from the slavery of Spanish rule.
Spain now fights a war on two fronts. Cuban and Filipino insurgents are inspired by the Declaration of Independence and America's own history of revolution. But for 3 years, the U.S. government does virtually nothing, refusing to recognize or support these struggles for independence. Then, on February 15th, 1898, the cause of the explosion of the U.S. battleship Maine in Havana Harbor is a mystery. But newspapers, songs, plays, and films think they know who's responsible. 2 months later, President McKinley calls for U.S. intervention in Cuba. But the first battle of the war occurs far from Cuba. 5 days after McKinley's declaration of war, Admiral George Dewey defeats the Spanish fleet at Manila Bay in the Philippines. Dewey's victory, Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders, the Battle of San Juan Hill, the Battle of Santiago. These events come to represent a new status for the United States. America declares itself to be a global power. Independence fighters in the Philippines rejoice at the defeat of Spain. They assume the U.S. will be an ally in establishing a free and independent nation.
I hereby decree the object of the revolutionary government is to prepare the Philippines for the establishment of a true republic and to fight until all free nations shall recognize it.
But the United States does not recognize Philippine independence. America has other ideas. Europe had been claiming overseas colonies for over 400 years. In the 1890s, the last great land grab is on. The United States wants a piece of the action and needs to quell social conflict created by industrialization. The U.S. sets its sights on global economic expansion, especially access to China. On the home front, the United States sponsors 4 enormous international expositions. Emulating its European rivals, the American expositions construct a new image of the nation, suitable to the role of empire.
Of the great nations of the world, the United States is the youngest. Our resources are equal to those of any other nation. Our people are among the most intelligent, cultured, happy, and prosperous of mankind. The world's Columbian Exposition is the natural outgrowth of this nation's place in history.
These massive world's fairs promote industrialization and international trade. They also glorify Western culture and America's rise to world prominence.
Son, this is quite an education. It's like walking through all of the world's civilizations. I wish you could see it.
These buildings will disappear. This creation of art, beauty, and industry will perish. But who can tell the new thoughts that have been awakened, ambitions fired? In the furtherance of national interests, this fair is performing an important part.
Emma, you wouldn't believe the things they got here. It's a different world. At night, the buildings light up as bright as day.
To the Philippine people, as soon as the inhabitants of each town are free from Spanish dominion, the people shall assemble in open public meeting and proceed to elect by a majority of votes a chief of the town and 3 official delegates.
Filipino nationalists secure independence from Spain and set about establishing a new nation. No easy task given its geography and diversity. 7,100 separate islands and over 80 ethno-linguistic groups.
The chiefs of each town, after consulting the opinion of their assemblies, will themselves assemble and elect by majority of votes the chief of the province.
In the United States, Filipinos are presented only as children or savages.
To the Honorable Secretary of State John Hay, Washington, D.C., January 24th, 1899. There are approximately 20,000 American troops in the city of Manila. A number of war vessels are stationed in the harbor. A few days ago, a transport sailed from New York City with 2,000 troops. We are further informed that troops are under orders to proceed by way of San Francisco to the Philippines. It is naturally the impression of my government that these warlike preparations indicate immediate military operations aimed at the existing government of the Philippines. The Philippines are in a state of public order. They possess a government satisfactory to their inhabitants. It is my duty to request assurances that it is not the intention of America to make war upon the new Republic of Asia, and that our liberties are not in danger at the hands of a republic whose name we have always associated with freedom. Very respectfully, Felipe Agoncillo, Envoy of the Philippine Republic.
President McKinley refuses to recognize Felipe Agoncillo or the new government of the Philippines.
I did not know what to do with the Philippines. I walked the floor of the White House night after night. I went down on my knees and prayed Almighty God for light and guidance. And one night it came to me. To give them back to Spain would be cowardly. To transfer them to France or Germany would be bad business. The Filipinos were unfit for self-government. There was nothing left for us to do but to take them, to educate the Filipinos, uplift and Christianize them.
The peace treaty with Spain faces strong opposition in the U.S. Senate. Then, on February 4th, 1899, tensions over annexation of the Philippines erupt in Manila. 2 days later, the Senate ratifies the treaty by one vote. Annexation and war against the Philippines occur almost simultaneously.
I have tried to avoid armed conflict in my endeavors to assure our independence, but my efforts have been useless against the American government. The people are strong when they wish to be so. Without arms, we have driven the Spanish from our shores, and without arms, we can repulse this foreign invasion.
Mine eyes have seen the orgy of the launching of the sword. He is searching out the hoardings where the stranger's wealth is stored. He hath loosed his fateful lightnings, and with woe and death has scored. His lust is marching on.
America's military action provokes immediate and sharp debate across the nation.
We protest, forcing our system of government upon an unwilling people. We protest the maintenance of a large standing army. We urge working men to awake and call upon their representatives to save them from the dangers of imperialism.
The colored people of Boston into their solemn protest against the unjustified invasion by American soldiers in the Philippine Islands. While rights of colored citizens in the South are shamefully disregarded and lynchings frequent, it is the duty of the President to reform these domestic wrongs and not to attempt to civilize alien peoples by powder and shot.
The policy of expansion is America's historic policy. We have annexed the Philippines exactly as we have annexed Hawaii, New Mexico, and Alaska. We cannot go back. First, for the sake of the islands themselves, and next, for the sake of our honor.
Just beyond the Philippines are China's illimitable markets. We will not retreat from either. Our largest trade henceforth must be with Asia. This question of acquiring the Philippines is deeper than any question of party politics. It is elemental. It is racial. God has not been preparing the English-speaking peoples for 1,000 years for nothing but idle self-contemplation. He has made us adept in government so that we may administer government among savage and senile peoples.
A republic cannot be an empire. For a republic rests upon the theory that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and colonialism violates this theory. We do not want the Filipinos for citizens. They cannot share in the government of our nation, and moreover, we cannot afford to add another race question to the race questions we already have.
I have been overflowing with wrath ever since the proposal was made to engraft our half-barbaric form of government on our new possessions. I have been studying how to save, not them, but ourselves from the disgrace. This is the first time the United States has ever tried to foist upon a people the exclusively masculine form of government.
In a sordid slime harmonious, greed was born in yonder ditch, with a longing in his bosom, and for others' goods an itch. As Christ died to make men holy, let men die to make us rich. Our God is marching on.
All right, that was Savage Acts. Hopefully that kind of gave you a historical and political context of justification of US imperialism and the ways in which even politicians, labor leaders here in the United States, we're going back and forth in terms of what does it mean to have a territory abroad, and if our principles and values are based on this idea of democracy and the consent of the people, there's a real question mark there. And in the next part of this, we're going to kind of break down what U.S. empire looked like in the particular countries. So we had the Philippines, Hawaii, which is now a state, Puerto Rico, which is still a territory, and Cuba. It's a sovereign country now. So, do folks remember this cartoon? Yes, no? It was the first week, I believe. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone want to share or jog your memory of what we discussed 4 weeks ago? Not a test, but what do you recall from our conversations about this political cartoon? So we have the territories in the front row, and then we have Uncle Sam in front of the classroom. Anyone want to share? Don't remember. What do you see? Jasmine, L, Alvin, or Anush? What do you remember from this conversation that we had 4 weeks ago? Okay. L, I think it's Uncle Sam trying to colonize other countries by changing their culture. Okay. So in the video,
It could be an image.
Oh, go ahead.
It could be an image of forceful conversion.
I can't hear you, Anush.
It could be an image of forceful conversion.
A lot of background noise.
I'm sorry, I'm on the bus. Forceful conversion.
Forceful conversion. Okay, that's the word I heard. So obviously the territories weren't. Oh, the people that lived in the Philippines, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico and Cuba obviously didn't concede to this or consent. And what Anush is talking about, yeah, it was forced upon them through war. And many of these countries had to go, well, pretty much suffered as a result of US military presence there. And here you see Uncle Sam is intimidating these countries, educating them. And if in the video they talked about how do we spread democracy, since America is like the beacon of American democracy, of culture, of development in this new modern world. And for these countries, they are little children. They need the guidance of U.S. empire, the U.S. and American democracy, to, I guess, catch up to that. And do folks remember about the conversations with the Chinese immigrant, the Native American, or the African American washing the window? If not, I could kind of talk on it. So we have the Chinese immigrant who's excluded from the classroom, the Native American who is reading a book upside down in the doorway, and the African American is washing the window behind Uncle Sam. And the political cartoon is telling us that the histories of these different communities obviously have a commonality. They're excluded, they're racialized, even the artwork, they are depicted in the same color or skin color tones. Even their facial features are similar, the hair, and trying to portray this idea of inferiority of communities, or communities of color, and then this white supremacy that Uncle Sam kind of represents here. So hopefully you remember this cartoon, because it's kind of gonna set the conversation that we're gonna have now. So we're gonna break up into groups, and in the groups, we're gonna talk about the Philippines, Cuba, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. And obviously they experienced US imperialism in their own way, but they also share common military experiences, I guess you could say, because of the ways in which US approach colonization. So what I'm going to do is break you up into 4 different groups. There's about 21 of us. You're going to be assigned 1 country. So if you're breakout room number 1, you will be the Philippines. If you're in breakout number 2, you're doing, oh wait, I think I changed it in the Google slide. Let me share the Google slide so I don't confuse it even more. I got a different order. So, all right. Let me share the link so you can look over it while I create the rooms and also describe the activity. Here's the link. Let me know if it works, that you have it. It works. Okay. That's the first step. The second one, here's a folder with all the different readings. So now, in the breakout rooms, Room number 1 will be the Philippines. Number 2 will be Hawaii. Number 3 will be Puerto Rico. And number 4 will be Cuba. So remember that. And 2, you're all going to be given 3 readings and 1 political cartoon. So you're going to have about 20 minutes kind of review. The readings are probably a page or 2, so they're not super long, but it kind of shares testimonies from either from the US side or from the colony side about what US empire looked like, was experienced. And in the breakout room, we'll kind of talk about how the US was framed and also what was the stance of some of these colonies in the midst of the US empire. And do I have questions on my chat? Oh, you got access denied? Okay. Maybe because, I don't know. Let me see what my settings are. Thank you, thank you. So, no, it's restricted. I thought you could open it with the link. Why is this happening? Okay, so only people can open with this link. That's odd. Oh, that's why. Okay, link. Let me know if you have access now. It should be the correct settings. Is it open? You have access to it? Still? Oh my goodness.
It's in PDF form.
What's that?
It's in PDF form.
The folder? I thought I shared a folder for folks. Oh, technology. So give me a second. Interesting. Here's my folder. Get a link. Anyone with a link. Updating viewer. Can you? Maybe I'll change as an editor. Copy. Oh, Cashel got it. Did anyone? So there's a folder with all the different countries with particular readings. You'll see Cuba and then the reading, or Puerto Rico and then some type of reading. So let's go over that real quick. So before I send you off. So you're given 3 readings, I believe, for one, or for each country. And in the readings, it kind of talks about an aspect of imperialism in that country. I think each reading is about a page or 2 long, so it kind of gives you a glimpse into that. And you also have a political cartoon in the Google slide. And I would like you to kind of talk about the political cartoon. Some questions to think about. What is the artist who drew this cartoon trying to say about the US? What is the cartoon, or how do they portray the other countries that are being taken from the US? what assumptions are expressed about the United States by the use of particular image. So what is this political cartoon trying to tell? What is the story? Do you think the artist is communicating his or her opinion effectively? So, so you'll have about 20 minutes to kind of review the packet. It's like 3 one-page readings and then 1 political cartoon. So you'll have about 15 minutes to kind of develop the slide. Try to include pictures, try to include maybe quotes. You don't have to necessarily just use 1 slide. You could use multiple slides if it doesn't fit on one. So I encourage you to maybe do 2 to 3 slides around your country. So how's that sound for folks? Questions? Oops. So 4 groups, 4 countries, and then about 4 to 5 people in there. So it is 1:16, 20 minutes to read and 15 minutes to come up with your PowerPoint. So what is that? 35. And it's already 1:16. Trying to do math in my head. It's around 1:50. And then we'll probably take a break and then we'll share after that. How's that sound for folks? Cool.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, so hopefully you enjoy the readings. Some of it's testimonials, so it's personal accounts from folks. And then there's some artwork too. And if you see the, there's another longer reading, they're about 20 pages each. You don't have to look at them, but if you want reference, that kind of gives you a background of the country, if you have time. And you could review it too real quickly if you have maybe some questions about the country itself. Some of its, I guess, facts and statistics are there. So cool. I'll see you all in about 30-something minutes. So if you have any questions, I'll be dropping into the rooms here and there. And then, yeah, enjoy the activity. Here you go.
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
Can you please send me that link again? I accidentally didn't click it.
Okay. You are in 3, right?
I think so, yeah.
How do I resend you there? Can you go to your panel? And is there another invite kind of option there? No, yeah, maybe so. Oh, it did work. Hi, Vanessa.
Hello. Sorry, I was a little bit late.
Oh, no worries. So everyone's in a group right now, and we're looking at particular countries, and we're going to share about those countries. How much? So you just jumped on right now?
Yeah.
Okay. How do I should
Want me
explain
to join a group?
I can, or I could explain it to you quickly and
Oh,
so
sure. Yeah.
complete.
I mean, whatever you think is best.
Okay. So they're in the breakout rooms. Whatever room you're in, you're going to take on a country, either the Philippines, Cuba, Hawaii, or Puerto Rico. And since last week we talked about U.S. empire and its role in these particular countries, you're going to get 3 readings. They're short readings, like a page or 2, like testimonials of either if they agreed or didn't agree with the US's presence in their particular country. And then you'll have about 20 minutes or so to talk about that with your group, about that packet. And then there's also a political cartoon in the Google slide, and you'll talk about that too. So, and then we'll share as a class.
All right, perfect. So you just want me to like do like group 4?
Group 4? Okay. You want group 4? I think group 4.
You sent me a breakout room thing.
Okay, so what you're good? Yeah, just go to that one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Oh,
Hello. Yes.
hi, Professor.
What's up?
We need help on which article, well, which reading we were supposed to read, but we don't know. We kind of, didn't hear which one we were supposed to read.
So which room are you?
Okay. Room 2.
So you are in the slide deck, what? Philippines, Hawaii? I think.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, it's Philippines and Hawaii.
Okay, so if you go, let me share my screen. If you go to the breakout rooms, so you are the second group, which is Hawaii, and then you have 3 readings. It's called Resistance to Annexation, Aloha Industry, and 4th of July. But in the folder, you'll see Hawaii already in the title. So the 3 readings are already there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the overview kind of talks the background of that country, but it's like 20 pages long. So if you have time and needed more information to kind of share, you could go there. And then you also have this one, No Fight Hawaiians. So that's what I'm working on. I believe each of the readings, 4th of July, Aloha Industry, and No Fight, is about a page or 2. So I would spend maybe the first 10 minutes kind of reading, reviewing, and then the latter 10 minutes to discuss was the group, and then jump into the presentation, and you'll have about 10-15 minutes to prepare your slides. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Good.
Doable? Okay, cool. All right. Let me know if you have any questions, and then, yeah, I'll be around.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.